Hey, church family, welcome to what we're calling Easter at First. This is a series of podcast-style episodes meant to help us think well about this season of resurrection. Our goal is to give 3 of these a week to you leading up to Easter and one special after Easter. We want to encourage you that as you engage these episodes, to comment, engage one another. As we've talked about social media being the digital neighborhood, we want you to engage your neighbors. So if something sticks out to you, comment on it. If the Lord lays something on your heart, comment on it and engage your neighbors in this digital space. As we walk this season of Easter, focused on the resurrected Christ, may these episodes encourage you to walk more faithful to Him. Christ be with you.
Death came after the wrong guy.
All right, we rolling? Fellas, welcome.
What's up?
What's up, my man?
This is something very new for us here at First Baptist. Something we're trying this Easter, this kind of podcast format, to put some things in front of our people,
right?
That we want them we think are worthy of them thinking through and engaging in. So I think an initial question for us to kind of work through to help onboard people to what we're doing here is, why are we doing this?
That's a good question. We've been talking about this for a long time, about having podcast, being able to spend more time than just what we do on an Easter Sunday morning or a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night. Yep. Being able to get into the cars and into the homes and on social media with our people. And so podcast is a great way to do that. Yeah. Trav, when you think of engaging our congregation, what are you hoping that they get out of this, especially in terms of this Easter season as they're thinking kind of broadly as families, as individuals across the board?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think the one thing that we want people to do is just chew on the things that we're talking about on Sunday mornings. Process it more deeply. Let it be a part of everyday life. Put this on when you're in the car or when you're doing dishes at home or whatever it may be. Just kind of in the background, so that we're thinking deeply about the things of God. Just in the middle of regular life. I think that's kind of the beauty of podcasts. Yeah. And when, as you guys will see, as this comes out, we're going to cover a broad set of topics. We're going to talk about things deep, like the historicity of Jesus. We're going to talk about the resurrection and the power of the theology behind the resurrection. And we're going to talk today about like some of the more silly, fun things about Easter, the cultural elements of Easter. I think one of the things that I want for our people is, in this day and age where you kind of have this consumer mindset of this is how we're supposed to engage Easter, whether it's Christmas, any kind of holiday, is how should we rightly think about the things surrounding Easter? As we look to the cross, as we look to the resurrection, we are a people who have been brought out. And so that means we should be thinking different thoughts and we should be engaging in different ways. And so let's bring this a little bit personal, though, before we jump into those cultural elements and how we should frame our thinking and all this. What did Easter look like for you guys growing up?
What about you, Travis?
The first thing I think of when I think of Easter is I think of pictures immediately. This was kind of my childhood in a nutshell, but it was always like, hey, we're going to get dressed up and we're going to take pictures. And like, you got to think, when I was a kid, my dad was sick for a while, but like my mom would my dad was a trooper. Like she'd drag that joker outside and like, hey, we're going to go stand in front of this azalea bush.
Oh, in like 100-degree heat.
Big time photo shoot though. We're like, and it was short, but it was all hands on deck. We were trying to get my dad out there. My dad hated pictures. My brother wouldn't look at the camera. He's looking down. He's looking everywhere. He'd smile. He'd say cheese, and he'd look down like this. Like we couldn't. It was terrible. But that was what we did every Easter. Always had to take pictures.
Yeah, but the journey for my family started long before that when we were going to the mall, and we had to buy a special Easter outfit. And it was from head to toe.
Yeah, that's right.
We had and a little clip-on tie. Yeah. And that was all anticipating the pictures.
You didn't tie your own tie?
No, not at that season. And then we would, before we go to bed on the night before Easter, of course, we had to take an empty basket and lay it by the front door. I don't know why it went by the front door, but we put it by the front door. And would get up in the morning time and surprise, the Easter Bunny has arrived and filled the basket with candy. And so for us, that was sort of part of the emphasis as a kid. But then we started to focus on the most important thing. We would go to church.
Yeah.
And, we would hear the Easter story, the resurrection story. That would be followed up with a visit to the grandparents.
Yeah.
And we'd have Easter dinner, and the inevitable, Easter egg hunt would take place.
Yeah.
And so, that was a very important part of my upbringing when it came to Easter.
Did you do baskets?
I remember getting a basket maybe once.
Okay.
I was kind of afraid of the Easter Bunny though.
Okay.
Like I didn't like the whole character thing growing up. So like you go to the mall and you see the Easter Bunny like walking through the mall, I would cry and run into like Macy's or something.
Santa Claus too?
Yeah, for the most part. We would
Really?
leave stuff like on the front door and kindly leave a note asking Santa Claus to stay out. Yeah, it was a little bit odd. Like
You had some phobias.
Yeah, I don't want anybody breaking in,
You do know Santa Claus doesn't come through the front door.
Well, when you don't have a chimney, he does.
Yeah. Okay. Was it always candy in the basket? Like, what was in the basket for you guys?
It was always the chocolate bunny.
Okay. Yeah.
Always the chocolate bunny.
Yeah.
That you would eat just the ears.
Yeah.
And then you were done with
Yeah.
it. And then you had the other items.
So we had a chocolate bunny. There was a season, my mom may fight this, but I remember there were a couple years where I got like a video game. Ooh. And I was like, that was peak Easter Bunny, which is wild. You're going to hear my take on the Easter Bunny in a minute. But like, loved that version of the Easter Bunny.
Yeah,
but we did the whole, like, I think back to like Easter growing up, very family focused. Yeah. Very like, we're celebrating together. Everybody comes over for this huge meal. Now I think back and I'm like, oh, it's our Passover meal, and we take pictures and we commemorate the day when we believe that Jesus rose from the grave. Mm-hmm. Okay, so as we think through that, we're going to talk about some crazy things, but do you have any Easter hot takes? Like anything that you would be like, okay, I want to whisper this and only tell a couple of people?
Yeah, I mean, mine's probably candy related. I think we should burn Peeps. I don't know if that's a hot take or if that's just I'm really passionate about it.
Either of you like Peeps?
No. I think Easter has both the highs and the lows when it comes to holiday candy.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
And what's the high?
Oh, the high has got to be the Reese's chocolate egg.
Without
Unbelievable.
question.
I mean, it is like at the top of the chart.
Yeah.
And I would put Peeps down on the bottom, like those chalky little candies that you get at for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
No, those are better than Peeps.
No.
Peeps are so bad.
Peeps are, if I'm honest, they're a serial killer tendency, right?
Yeah.
So like if somebody is in love with Peeps, it's like, we should have known this about you.
Yeah, that's right.
You like Peeps. Who likes Peeps? Right. Any hot takes?
No, I mean, hot takes, for some, I think it might be how I view Easter and celebrating it with family today.
Yeah. Okay.
Is not the way I was probably raised with.
Okay.
So the things that were emphasized
Yeah.
as a child, they began to creep into my family as I began to have a family, and then they just sort of faded away.
Okay. Interesting.
The things that we would focus and celebrate on.
So why don't you use that as a diving board for us? One of the things that we want to do today is we just kind of want to have a fun conversation about the cultural elements of Easter. Mm-hmm. I mean, even like there's people who don't like the name Easter, but we think about baskets, we think about candy, we think about egg hunts, we think about going and like buying a new outfit to come and wear your Easter Sunday best. So what's y'all's takes on that? But then also like, how did it form as you were growing up? Travis, you're still growing up, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure it out.
Well, I mean, one of the things that you'll hear today occasionally, as a pastor, you'll get some pushback.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you're celebrating a pagan holiday.
Yeah.
Easter has roots in paganism and things. And so, I think it's important that we, sort of pull the cap off of that and take a look and to see. And so I've done a little bit of a deep dive.
Okay.
Into the very name of Easter.
Love it.
And I've learned a few things. The idea of Easter as having pagan roots sort of traces itself back to the 8th century in Northumbria, of all places, which is Northumbria was a medieval kingdom in England and Scotland.
Yes.
And there was a historian by the name of Venerable Bede, and he had written about this festival in the springtime called Eostra. And it was supposedly the named after or dedicated this festival, dedicated to a goddess by that name, who was a goddess of maybe of fertility and springtime, and so Christians come along and they adopted this name for their resurrection celebration. The problem, of course, with that is that the only person who has ever talked about this pagan roots was this historian Bede. There's no other indication that there was even a goddess by that name. So it's up to speculation as to whether or not that's the pagan root of it.
Yeah.
The Germans also had a name that was sort of similar to that, Ostra, I think, that and the root of that word in the German language was east, and the idea that there was a sunrise, and which is associated with new birth and new beginnings, and so resurrection and is about new beginnings. It's about a new start, new birth, and so that Christians sort of came and embraced that, and so whether or not that means that Easter itself has roots in paganism, I think that's incorrect, because we know that the roots of it, whatever you call it, is rooted in the resurrection.
That's right.
So
bunnies, egg hunts. How are we to think through that in terms of are these good cultural things? Are these should we be accepting of this? You talk about paganism and we'll get to this in a second in terms of how we're supposed to think through it as Christians, but how do you guys think through these cultural elements of bunnies and baskets and egg hunts, knowing that there are people out there who are planning theirs right now?
It's really interesting to me. I've always found Easter to be a bit of a conundrum in terms of how do non-Christians think about Easter? Non-Christians can get behind Christmas because of gift giving, right? And there's something it's just so deeply rooted culturally, but what are non-Christians celebrating? What's the celebration that's happening? And so I guess it's these sorts of festivities that kind of give Easter life for them. But I don't think necessarily just because culture participates in these things that we have to totally throw them out. I think has probably been my perspective. Should they be central? Probably not, right? Certainly not. As Christians, we would say the resurrection would be central, but that doesn't necessarily for me, mean that we have to stay completely away from them entirely just because culture has taken them and run with them, kind of away from a Christian understanding of Easter.
Yeah. Darren, did you guys do the Easter bunny and baskets and all these things? You talked about it kind of shifting as you grew up and inoculated into your home.
So when you become a father, you become a parent, there are a lot of things that you did as a child with your family that you sort of want to bring into your family. And we started to do the Easter bunny thing, but we didn't really put a lot of forethought into it. And the reason why we didn't put forethought into it, because when I was a child, we didn't put forethought.
Sure.
It was just this character that's going to show up and give you things, and it was an exciting thing. I don't know if there was ever a conscious decision in my household where we stopped focusing on that. I think every season as the kids were growing up, we would provide them candy and things, but it became a little bit more diminishing. Oh, who has brought this stuff?
Yeah.
And I think it was just sort of an overflow of our desire to focus on the true story and the true meaning behind Holy Week and the resurrection celebration. And so I can't point to a conscientious moment where we're saying, no, we're not going to do this. And I really don't condemn someone else that continues to do that in their family. I think it's for each family to figure out. But I think, as Travis has mentioned, there's a difference, it seems, between the Christmas celebration and the Easter celebration. And there's a weightiness, it feels sometimes, to the Easter celebration that I think gets diminished by some of the more cultural adaptations of celebration that we've seen.
Yeah. So Katie and I don't remember who we got this from. Maybe it was way back in the day at FBC Jax. But we have this thing that we this kind of rubric that we'll bring into, we've been doing a lot with parenting lately, but kind of this idea of accept something, reject something, or redeem something. And so the question for us is this something that we just accept? Do we out and out reject it? This is paganism, we shouldn't use it? Or is this something that we can redeem? And we've talked about this in our family for a couple years now, surrounding the Easter Bunny. I don't accept the Easter Bunny. I out and out reject the Easter Bunny. I do not try to redeem the Easter Bunny. I don't want to accept Easter baskets. I try to out and out reject Easter baskets. And so my home redeems Easter baskets in terms of my family members bringing them to our kids and over the years. And so I think part of this is I can't redeem the Easter Bunny, and I can't wait to see in the comments and get stopped at church and hear all these, like, this is how you redeem the Easter Bunny. I get it. Also, the comeback is always, well, what about Santa Claus? BJ, you're Mr. Santa Claus. I am, as I can redeem St. Nicholas. I see the gift giving coming. The Father's given us the greatest gift, and so we give gifts. And so I think, like, when we talk about, like, framing this as Christians, and, like, I love Darren, like, this is something that our families have to own individually in terms of you have to, Romans 14, live out your convictions unto the Lord. This is my conviction. My wife and I have talked through this. We don't necessarily totally see eye to eye on it. I probably take a more convictional stance, a stricter stance. But ultimately, can you redeem this to the point of pointing it back to Jesus? Can you, with whatever you do, make much of Jesus in it? Or at least, if you want to do an egg hunt, make sure you don't deter away from the message.
So what was irredeemable for you with the Easter Bunny?
So this could be a lack of understanding of where the Easter Bunny comes from. But ultimately, I don't see any ties to the Easter Bunny and the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. I see it more somewhat, and I don't say this harshly, but like as a consumeristic aspect of Easter that has no real... Listen, we're a Peter Rabbit family. My wife loves Peter Rabbit, so we're not against rabbits. It's just, it's the Easter Bunny I don't understand. So here's the thing. If you can convince me, I will humble myself before you and the Lord and believe and buy my son the greatest Easter basket from the Easter Bunny you've ever seen. I don't see it, though.
Would you... I don't necessarily want to go too deep in this if we don't have to, but would you be content to give an Easter basket that you could redeem and just reject the bunny?
So here's what I would say, and I think this is a somewhat good characteristic of how you approach leadership and marriage. If my wife wanted to, yes.
Seems fair.
I would, if this was something that she wanted to do, I would look at her and say, this is why I don't want to. I don't like this. But so far, we're on the same page there in terms of that's not something we want to do. My mom brought a soccer Easter basket, and it was full of... That's what grandmas are for. That's right. I think that's the line she told me. This is what grandmas are for. And so, as much as it is for me in my house, this is kind of where we stand on this. Yeah.
So the Easter basket is a problem for you?
Here's what I would ask. How does it connect to the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus?
I got it.
And I think Easter is a even more like Christmas. I see it. I can connect it. Easter, I struggle to. You have something there?
No, I was going to say I just got a chocolate cross, so that was how we connected. Yeah. That was usually the go-to.
Well, even with Christmas, there are a number of traditions that may not be redeemable directly to the nativity. Are there particular things with that you've avoided?
I don't know if I can think of any. I connect deeply in the season of Christmas, the Father's gift giving and the Father's interaction with us, his children, to us gift giving and interacting with those around us. Now, can you approach Christmas with that mindset and or understanding those connections, but approach Christmas Day, Christmas Eve atheistically? You absolutely can. Sure. So it's not just like, oh, Christmas is good, Easter is bad. I have no doubt, and I know of some people in our church who approach Easter in ways that I don't, but they're super faithful Christians, and all they want to do is lead their family well, and they want to love their kids and lavish their kids with the goodness of what they see Easter to be. And what I say is, yes, go brother and sister in Christ. but not my house, because I'm not convinced of it. And
totally get that. There are some, there's some things about Easter that to me are silly. I mean, the idea of an Easter bunny. Yeah. We know that Santa Claus, St. Nicholas was a real person. Yeah. But there is no saint, rabbit out there. And it has some roots in German folklore. And it was about this bunny or a hare that was laying eggs, which is just a strange thing. But there's also been the aspect of Christians redeeming, if you will, the Easter egg, that it is symbolic of the resurrection. Yes. And so, I can see how that can be part of it. That's why I would, Easter bunny, maybe not. I can see the baskets and egg hunts and things like that, though that is tied to the Easter bunny. Yeah. Because the Easter bunny would lay these eggs in gardens and nests and things. And granted, the Easter basket was originally a nest. So they say. So I think there's some parts of it that I would be fine with. And what I think it goes back to the core. What are we observing that's really taking away from the message? Yeah. That would be my concern. Yeah. If there's something that I would find to be a little bit more neutral, no big deal. Yeah. Baskets, colored eggs, pastel colors, those are now a part of our tradition and our culture. Yep. And I don't think that takes away from the story, and it doesn't take away from the gospel.
What about, so this is something I used to really have strong convictions about, and I've softened over time. Like the whole, getting a new outfit, wearing this new set of clothes, because for me, there was a portion where it was like, I just didn't see it. We're just going and buying. This is consumerism. JCPenney just wants us to go buy a new outfit. And then I started to think through it of, well, I wonder if people are trying to redeem that aspect in terms of, as Christians, we wear new clothes because of the resurrection, because of the atonement. And maybe they're coming and wearing new clothes. Now, I may be giving you the greatest theological reasoning that you need for a new outfit. What is y'all's take on the clothes?
Well, all of what you just said is bunk. Yeah. There was an era in which, to go to church, you had to dress up. Yeah. That was sort of an 18th century invention. It wasn't always the case. In fact, there was a season in which people of the Baptist persuasion would have rejected dressing up to go to church, that was worldliness. But somewhere along the way in our culture, dressing up, presenting your best for the Lord, and that would include what you would wear. You want to present your best to the Lord. And so you would come to church on Sunday, not just Easter Sunday, but on a Sunday. And so it was just part of the tradition of dressing up for worship, that sort of your worship uniform. Right. Yeah. I've rejected that. I think that's an unnecessary thing. And sometimes dressing up can give a false sense of righteousness because it's exterior. Right. And we know that the Lord looks upon the heart. Is it a problem to dress up for church? Absolutely not. Right. I think that's an individual preference. I think you need to dress appropriately. You should dress with modesty. Right. For one person, that may be showing up in a coat and tie on a Sunday morning or a dress. For someone else, it may be something a little less formal. And it is perfectly fine to go out, for me, for my family, for the women to get an Easter dress, to get a nice new outfit. It's not the emphasis we used to make it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think it comes down to centrality. We talked about this, are we making these things central? If we're making how we look and how, I need my family to look a certain way on Easter because that's what we do on Easter. I think we may be running the risk of misprioritizing what we're valuing on Easter Sunday. Yeah. And so, I would talk. Are we making it central? I think that's probably a helpful marker, at least in my mind.
I do think there's a new reason why people dress up, though, over the last few decades.
What's that?
It's what Travis said. We got to get the Sunday picture. That family photo becomes a part of our tradition. So you dress up, put on something nice. Sometimes that means going to buy something new, and it's just part of the family tradition.
And it's the snapshot culture we live in with Instagram, Facebook. Memories, experiences are what are centrality, or what are central to our experience of spirituality, almost as a whole. Is what was it like to experience this Sunday? And we as husbands, as wives, as parents, it is our job to rein that back. Mm-hmm. In that spirit, one of the things that I think would be helpful in kind of landing the plane here, you think about Chronicles talking about the men of Issachar who understood the times.
And knew what to do.
And knew what to do. I think of Matthew 5 where Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount, he says in the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. Meaning what God is doing inside, including like cognitively, should come out of us to the point of leading people to right thinking, right living, and the glory of God. So in that frame, how should we frame Easter? What's a good, like as we venture into this season here at First Baptist, what are ways we should frame this in our mind? How should we think about it? I know we've talked about this a little, but how would you put it to our people?
Well, I think the first question is Easter important? Not just the first Easter, is the resurrection important? Obviously it is.
Yeah.
But is it important for us to acknowledge and reflect upon and remember?
Yeah.
We know with the Lord's Supper, Jesus, when he, on that Last Supper, said, eat this, drink this, do this in remembrance of me.
Yeah.
He was talking about his death. Paul would come along later and says, as often as you eat this and drink this, you do it in remembrance of me. Paul would also go into 1 Corinthians, at the end of 1 Corinthians chapter 15, and he talks about the things that he had received, he passed on as of first of importance, which was that Jesus Christ was crucified according to the Scriptures, that he was buried, and that he raised on the third day according to the Scriptures. So there's a significance that is presented to us that we need to remember this. And we know this. It's the heart of our gospel, the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. I think it's interesting that some of our forebears, going all the way back, some of the early church fathers, when they gathered together in the first council, the Council of Nicaea, among the many things that they were focused on and were discussing back in that first council, beyond the Trinity and trying to the Nicene Creed, is they actually decided when Easter was going to be celebrated. And so they had a particular formula based on the first moon, and that would follow the vernal equinox, and it was to unify the churches of various traditions so that they would all be on the same page. Why? Because celebrating Easter, the resurrection, was important. And so tracing back through our church history, if it was important for them as they were reflecting upon what the New Testament was calling us to do, we should do the same. Amen. And so I think it's important. One of the things that we've done at our church, because we sort of had things not weighted out well in our calendar, we put a heavy emphasis on the Advent and on Christmas. Right. And it was wonderful. It's one of my favorite times of the year. But when you weighed that out against what we were focusing on, the greatest event in all of human history, the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ, we were just touching it on a Sunday. A few years ago, we made this shift to where we would begin to focus on Holy Week. And we would slow walk ourselves through reflecting the last days of Jesus, thinking through the weight of his sacrifice, his passion for us, that we would sort of crescendo through his death, waiting on Easter Sunday, on Resurrection Sunday, so that we came into that day celebrating that our God was not dead, but he is alive. And I think our celebration should really be focused in that direction. It's okay in whatever way that in your personal convictions with the Lord to celebrate Easter, but if you're diminishing the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ, something is wrong. And so we want to redeem this season, not just for ourselves, but for our children. We're passing on a legacy to them. But the culture is watching too. You asked the question earlier, what are they celebrating? They don't know. But we have the opportunity to proclaim this gospel, that our God was once alive, he died for our sins, and he came back to life. And that's what it's all about.
Trav, what about you?
Yeah, I think the other thing I would add is that Easter serves almost as a launching point for what we as Christians get to do every Sunday. Every Sunday we're celebrating the resurrection, right? And so during this season of Easter, we give particular focus to what God has done for us in Christ through his life, death, burial, and resurrection. But then at the end of the day, as we give particular focus to this, I mean, this is why we show up every Sunday. Right. This is what we're celebrating. Amen. This is what we're focusing on. And so it helps, I think, kind of recapture that emphasis for us as Christians, that we get to continually celebrate, not just one day a year, but every week.
That's a good word.
Yeah, and living in a broken world, part of the difficulty of life, Easter is like that utopia that we get to, and we think hope.
Amen.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we celebrate every Sunday. But Easter is like this intensification of our celebration, because genuinely, and we can say it can sound cliche, without the resurrection, we have no hope.
That's right.
Because all of us, Romans 5, because we have sinned, we are going to physically die. When BJ's body lays in the grave, his spirit will still be alive. Yeah. But will I ever live the life that God's called me to again? Only because the resurrection of Jesus. Amen. Because I will one day be bodily resurrected. I have hope. God actually says, we'll get into this as we talk about the magnitude of the resurrection, that he's actually guarding us in that hope that we're singing about, that we're proclaiming, and that we're encouraging one another with on Easter. Yeah. And so I think, I'm prayerful for our church and for us as leaders, that as we're in this Easter season, man, let's have the fun. Yeah. Let's you want to do the egg hunts, do the egg hunts unto the Lord. You want to get a new outfit, hey, go wear new clothes, right? Spiritually, you already are. Yeah, go for it. You want to do the Easter bunny? Have at it, right? You want to do baskets? But at the end of the day, we are a people of hope because of the resurrection. Amen. May we live that out looking to the bodily resurrection. Yeah, that's right. So we're going to do this a lot, church family. And over the next handful of weeks, I think we have 6 to 7 planned. We'll talk about things like the historicity of Jesus, the magnitude of the resurrection. In between Good Friday and Sunday, we're going to do a fun one that maybe you haven't thought through much. When Jesus was dead, where did he go? And so these will be fun conversations. We pray that it edifies you. We are praying for you, church family, as you venture in this season, that you would have all the fun in the world. You'd make the memories, but they'd be centered around the one who is no longer dead and who gives you hope of bodily resurrection. Christ be with you.